Hello and welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. War. I have an updated video on the graded response items on the Tasc math exam. Now, not everyone takes the computer-based exam. There are some people who actually take the pencil and paper, and I was asked to do a video on these types of questions. Now, the graded response, they span the entire test. So you can find them in geometry. It could be a functions question. It could be a simple number quantity question. So I have a range of examples here that will be helpful whether you're taking the computer. And if you're taking a computer, this will be helpful as well because on the computer, you're going to have to type in your answer. And you're going to want to type in the correct answer because it's the same questions that are on the paper-based test. Okay, here I have a question. This will be on the number quantity side of the Tasc test. It states a bottle holds 2.6 ounces of food coloring. How many bottles can be completely filled from 100 ounces of food coloring? So we have 100 ounces. And we want to know how many bottles, and this is the most important part here. How many bottles can be completely filled? So in order to solve this, we're going to have to take 100 and divide it by 2.6. So I'm going to get my calculator. And let's put that in. 100 divided by 2.6. Now notice that when I divide, my answer is 38.46153.846. Now, if you're on a computer-based test and you enter all of this, your answer will be incorrect. On the gridded response items, the grid cannot accommodate, but the most important thing this question said, how many bottles can be completely filled? So if you have 38.46, how many completely filled bottles? Only 38. We're not going to count the 0.46. 0.46 is not completely filled. That is partially filled. So your answer here would be 38. Let's assume it was 38.56. Again, they said completely filled. So you cannot use rules of rounding to say, oh, the number in the ones position is a 5, therefore I can round this 8 to a 9. You have to know when to divorce your rounding skills. Because they said completely filled, you only have 38. Now to enter your answer, it depends on where you want to. Always remember the numbers must be next to each other. You can put it here, always write it at the top, and then you go ahead and you start to bubble in your answer. Let's look at question 2. In a 40-hour work week, Mary spends 15 hours answering telephones. What ratio, and that's the keyword here, of hours spent answering telephones to hours doing other types of work? Record your answer, and they said here as a fraction. So if you enter your answer as a decimal or a whole number, it will be incorrect. So they'll tell you how they want their answer. Now, because it's a ratio, we all know ratio is a fraction, and they want a ratio of hours spent answering the telephone. How many hours? That was 15. To the hours doing other types of work. Now remember, she works a 40-hour week. So to find out what she's doing when she's not answering the phone, you're going to have to do 40 minus 15. And to move this along, let's get our calculator. 40, take away 15. That gives us 25. So 25 hours, she's doing other types of stuff. So your fraction is 15 over 25. We all know fractions have this unspoken rule of reducing. So you have to reduce your fraction to lowest terms. Because they both end in 5s, it means that we can divide by 5. If I divide by 5, I get 3 over 5. If you're using the calculator, you can enter 15 n over d 25, go to the right and hit enter, and notice it reduces it for you. Always write your answer at the top, so you can go here 3/5. Make sure your slash is in line with a slash, and then you can bubble 3, your slash, and then 5. I always start at the front of my grid, but if you don't want to, let's get rid of this. You can start at the back. So you can put your answer here, 3/5. I'm going to bubble the 3. Then I bubble the slash for my fraction bar, and then my 5. And please be a little bit neater than I am with my bubbling. Now you may see some of these gridded response in your functions. So here, the function f of x equals 0.49x plus 44.95 represents the total cost for a company to print leaflets. So this statement here is telling you that this function is actually the total cost. So that f of x is the total cost to print leaflets. They said where x is the number of leaflets printed. They go on to say, what is the total cost? So we want to find the total cost, which means we're trying to find f of x. Again, they said to the nearest dollar to print 250 leaflets. Mark your answer in the grid. So we're going to start off with the function that they give us, because we need to use that to find the total cost. They told us what the x is. The x is the number of leaflets printed. How much do they want us to print? 250. So wherever I see x, I'm going to replace it with 250. So here my x is 250. So I have the 0.49 plus the 44.95. This type of question will be on the calculator because you have to do so much. And remember, the task test is timed. So let's get my calculator. I'm going to clear. So I'm going to enter this just as I see it here. 0.49. If you want to, open the parentheses. 250. Close the parentheses. Plus 44.95. Enter. My answer is 167.45. Remember what the question said. It says, what is the total cost to the nearest dollar? Which means we're rounding to the ones place. Right here. So we look at the digit to the right. It is a 4, which means the 7 will remain 7. So your answer is going to be $167. So again, they wanted their answer to the nearest dollar. So when you round it, it's 167 because the 4 is less than a 5. So again, you can go in the middle, you can go wherever you want to, as long as they're next to each other. 167, and then I'm going to bubble my 1, my 6, and then my 7. When you're on the gridded response, they will tell you where to round to. They have to, because you can't assume where they want you to round. So they will tell you so that you're not playing a guessing game. I have another problem here. It says a baseball pitcher's earned run average E is a function of the number of earned runs given up and innings pitched I. the function is written E equals 9R over I. What is the earned run average of a pitcher who gives up 8 runs in 18 innings? So they already told us that the earned run average is that E right here. So you have E equals 9R over I. We know R is the runs, we have 8, and the I is the innings, which is 18. So we just need to substitute that into our equation. So it'll be 9 times 8 divided by 18. 9 times 8 is 72, and you're going to divide that by 18. My answer is 4. Again, if you're on the calculator section, you can put all of that in the calculator. So you can go 9, open parentheses, 8, close the parentheses, N over D, here's your 18, go to the right, enter, and there's your 4. You can put your answer anywhere. You can put it here, 4, so it's best to write it, bubble your answer. We have a geometry problem. It says a cone has a base radius of 6.4 centimeters and a height of 12 centimeters. What is the volume of the cone in cubic centimeters? Use 3.14 for pi. And notice, since it's a grid, they said round your answer to the nearest ones. So they're telling you where to round because your answer is going to be a decimal. To find the volume of a cone, and this is where you would go to the math reference sheet. It's 1/3 pi r squared times height. So it's 1/3. Remember they said use 3.14 for pi. The radius is 6.4 to the second power, and your height is 12. 1 N over D, 3. Go to the right. You can open your parentheses. 3.14, close. Open it again. 6.4, close. We need to square it. Open your parentheses. 12, close, enter. Now our answer is 514, 514 point, and we have 4576. Now remember they said round to the nearest ones. Who's in the ones position? The 4. When you look at the digit to the right, it's a 4, which means it's less than 5. So this 4 would remain. So our answer is going to be 514. And we're going to enter that in our grid. And again, you can put it anywhere you like. 514. I'm going to bubble 5, my 1, and my 4. With these gridded response items, if you get a decimal that keeps going, they have to tell you where to round to. You can't assume, and they can't say approximate or estimate. They have to tell you to specifically round to a certain digit. Here's another geometry question. A cylinder has a base radius of 5 units and a height of 8 units. What is the volume of the cylinder in cubic units? And notice they said round your answer to the nearest unit. So you would go to your formula page, and to find the volume of a cylinder, it's pi r squared times height. Now here they didn't specify what to use for pi. So whether you use 3.14 or you use pi, the symbol, you're going to get the same answer. I'm going to show you. So I'm going to keep pi as pi. My radius is 5. I'm going to have to square that. And my height is 8. So I'm going to put that in my calculator. So I have pi. I have my 5, which I'm going to square. and then my 8. Now I get 200 pi. We don't want our answer with a symbol, so to get rid of that and get a decimal form, you're going to need the toggle here. And when you toggle, notice I get 628.318. So 628.318. When they say round to the nearest unit, or they sometimes say to the nearest whole, they want you to round to the nearest ones place. The 8 is in the ones, the digit to the right is a 3, which is less than 5, so your answer will be 628. Just write it in your grid at the top, and then let that guide you with how you bubble your answer. Now, if you used pi as 3.14, so suppose this was 3.14, I'm going to show you, you're going to get the same answer. So 3.14, we have our 5 squared, and our height is 8, and enter of 628. So it doesn't matter if you use the symbol pi or 3.114. What is the side length to the nearest whole? So whenever you see that word nearest, you know you're going to have to round. So the nearest whole foot of a cube that contains 4,000 cubic feet. Mark your answer in the grid. There are clues here to help us. First off, cubic feet. When you see cubic feet, that is your clue that we're looking at volume. And we want the volume of a cube. We know that a cube is like a rectangular container where it's the length times the width times the height. But because it's a cube, all the sides are the same. Basically, the length is the same, the width is the same, and the height is the same. So another way we write that is s to the third. So side cube, some textbook called edge cube. So all the sides are the same. But they told us the volume. They said the volume is 4,000. So we know 4,000 equals s cubed. So we want to find out what s is. We want to know how much is a side length. And to do that, we're going to have to get rid of this cube. In order to get rid of a cube, you need the opposite. The opposite of a cube is the cube root. So the opposite of an exponent is root. So we're going to have to take the cube root of both sides. That cube root is going to cancel here and here, which gives you s. So I want the cube root. So I'm going to have to start with 3, second function, and over here the caret. Because notice you see the x here, which means we can take any root. Enter 4,000. Go to the right. Enter. And notice our answer, 15.87. Remember, they said to the nearest whole. If they say the nearest whole, they mean the digit that's in the ones place. And who's to the immediate right? An 8. Because 8 is bigger than 5, the ones place must increase. So this now would become 16, because you're going to have to add 1. Your answer here is 16. And then you're going to bubble in your 16. So when they say round to the nearest whole, they mean to the nearest ones place. How many feet of fence are required to enclose a square area of 56 point? So again, this is another geometry. They give us some information. Square area. So the area that we're looking at is a square. Now, if you find the area of a square or rectangle, we know it's length times width. Now, because it's a square, it means all the sides are the same. So this will be s times s, which means that this is S squared. We know the square area is 56.25 equals S squared. S squared means that we're squaring. So the opposite, I hope you got it, would be you would have to take the square root. So we're going to have to take the square root of both sides. So we're going to need second function x squared to get our square root, 56.25. Go to the right, enter. Notice I get 7.5. 7.5 equals, now the square root cancels the square, which is your s. In this question, they never said to round. You're going to input 7.5 in your grid. You can go in the middle, 7.5. I'm going to bubble the 7. I'm going to bubble the decimal point. And then I'm going to bubble my 5. If they do not tell you to round, please do not round. Enter the answer that the calculator produced. If they do tell you to round, you're going to round to the specific place value. I hope this video has been helpful. Good luck on your Tasc test. And again, if you like the content, please subscribe, click the notification button, share, like, comment.